Futurama comic, issue 63. It starts out with the story making more use of the confusing idea that Igner is Farnsworth's son, even though Farnsworth hadn't seen Mom in several decades when he first got shown seeing her in the show. And Mom never seemed like the type who'd want a son so badly, that she'd go out of her way to get another one that late. How would Farnsworth still be able to have a son 20 years ago? Isn't he 160 now? But I still like the idea of Farnsworth having a son. Igner wears glasses like Farnsworth, claiming to be him for some reason. The crew sees Farnsworth, and Fry takes off Igner's glasses. And Igner fortunately explains that he was gonna go trick-or-treating just as Farnsworth. Farnsworth at least says that's sweet, but it doesn't make sense because it's only July. He's just really excited to go trick-or-treating. Igner thanks Farnsworth for some candy, and Fry answers the door to Igner's brothers, who take away his candy and plan on telling his mother on him because they're frustrated by his constant stupidity. Fry feels sorry for Igner, and Leela says he put his pants on backwards again. Farnsworth says they have a delivery to the robot pleasure planet. And since Farnsworth's smart enough to be scared that he can't trust Bender on a mission alone because he'd steal the cargo and buy booze with the money again, instead he's going to transfer their minds into robot bodies. Really makes me wonder why he doesn't do that for himself and stop having to deal with the limitations of being an old man. And the robot body doesn't even have to look like a robot, as the robot Lucy Liu proved. And he can invent anything, so he'd easily be able to get rid of any drawback that being a robot would provide. He says he always gets his brain transfer ray mixed up with his agony ray. Why would he have the two look the same way? I love that text box saying 5 minutes and 2 mix-ups later. Fry thinks it's cool to be a robot. I like how open-minded he is. It looks more like they're in animatronic suits, but I like that they kinda look like their old selves. I hate that Leela's skin is pink. I don't know why they wouldn't have the exact same coloration as before, especially since it's so close already. And this kind of technology could so easily provide the exact same problems as roboticization, couldn't it? It could if he learned how to reprogram robots like these to remove free will. He could take over the world with this, so I guess he's too distracted or lazy to think of that. Zoidberg smells toast because Farnsworth couldn't find a proper head for that body, somehow. So he just attached an old toaster. What he should say is that he was out of materials to make a head for him. But why would he be? He's literally surrounded by metal. Leela appreciates feeling so strong, and Bender says they never looked better. Oh, there's actually a way to balance it. Because for no reason, if Farnsworth doesn't transfer their minds back to their real bodies in 3 days, there will be dire consequences. Bender tries to pretend he's with different people than he was with before because it's tough being the only robot, but then says it at least made him feel special, so now he's mad about this. But he's still special because he looks the most like a robot out of all of them, and he's always been. They reach the planet, and Bender and Fry carry the crate of hot tub oil off the ship, and Hedonism Bot tells them to slide the box anywhere. I don't know why the show keeps reusing characters that don't matter. It's not like it's a CGI show like Sonic Boom, and so it's saving money by doing so. And when it comes to that weird talking lazy employee character, I never saw how he was so amazing and funny that it makes sense to keep bringing him back in new jobs with no explanation. Before Leela could head back to the ship, Bender ran into the hot tub. Zoidberg reveals that he sold his robot body to cover all the gambling debts he got on this planet in just 2 minutes. Him having a gambling problem might explain why he's always so poor when doctors are supposed to be rich. I always assumed he was just paid really poorly. Fry says he doesn't see what the big deal is about this planet. Bender says robot thrills are like human ones times 1,000 and tells them to look at that view, and pushes Leela and Fry off the cliff. Leela thankfully calls him out on this, and then she says she feels pretty awesome. Bender says putting yourself in dangerous situations is a huge kick, and tells Fry to drink a whole case of malt liquor and gamble every cent he's got. And Fry agrees because he's an idiot and Bender's a terrible influence. I can understand the first thing since he's a robot, but he shouldn't lose all of his money in one day. It would be fine if he only brought money here that he doesn't need, that can be lost no problem. Fry wins at gambling, and Calculon wishes he didn't bet his People's Choice Golden Globe Award. Leela says she appreciates folk music more out of nowhere, and Bender puts his arms around his friends, appreciating them more. He plans on phoning the professor to tell him they're not coming back. He says this place with a no trespassing sign seems like a quiet, nice place to make a phone call. So his reckless decision to make a phone call like that, his tendency to make bad decisions, once again ends up in the characters' favor. Because it means he was in the right place to hear Ignor's brother talk to a robot who's been partying all day here. He says he hopes he'll be just as pleased with the final chapter of his stay here, and uses an electromagnet to erase the memory of that robot. I wish I knew why he did that, because I'm just confused. Sure is easy to erase robot memories, apparently. I know magnets can get rid of information, but you'd think that it would get rid of all of the information in it at that point. So it would just kill the robot. Sure is, precise. He tells them they'll find a new home for him. Mom's plan was to lure robots here, wipe their memories, and sell them as new. His brother thanks him for reminding them why they're all here because he forgets sometimes. Bender gets offered a free towel by a non-robot, and finds out that this planet is perfectly safe for organics. And that was just a story made up to keep aliens out. But aliens would be able to easily test the atmosphere to see if it's actually acidic or not. Why would they just take them at their word? Someone would have tested it. It's a surprise that it was all a lie, but it's also underwhelming because the idea of a planet only robots can survive on was actually interesting. Considering how likely it'd be that there would be planets that protagonists can't breathe the air of, that they'd still want to go to in science fiction, it would be more realistic if most of the planets had to be visited in robotic form. Not just one of them. Astronaut suits would be obsolete the minute we'd find out how to do this, and make it cheaper than the alternative. It was inevitable that they'd run to a planet with an acidic atmosphere. But no, it's just another boring planet. And somehow nobody outside the planet discovered that there were organic beings living here yet. How recently did this planet make contact with the other ones? Bender's smart enough to send the information he just learned to his friends wirelessly, to save on time and exposition. But somehow Fry can't listen to him for no reason. And it's stilted that he'd say illegally downloading. Leela says they need to warn the others and not distract themselves, even though they might not be believed. Then somehow Leela lets herself get distracted just as easily as Fry by agreeing to help the robots form a Japanese-style giant megabot for no reason. Somehow it sounds like fun to them. Why is Leela always portrayed as thinking that Fry's an idiot who's too stupid for her when she's no better than him but is never called out on it? What should be done to tell her that they do have stuff in common as a couple? It really seems out of character that Bender's the only one desperate to leave when they're facing their memories being erased. It should be Leela. Somehow Zoidberg doesn't want to leave because the cook is giving him tons of different breads to toast. But Bender could just put the toaster in his chest and leave with him whenever he wants. He gets told the pool boy is a chef too because he's got a large family to support. Leela proves my point that she's not the sensible one by not wanting to leave because with her new robot eye, she can finally see 3D movies. This idiotic behavior of them all would only make sense if they were all being brainwashed to want to stay. I get that they're having fun, but they're all acting as dumb as Ignor. Of course he's not focused enough to make as many big mistakes as them. Bender says he'll fight Fry, and Fry is the one who wins. Bender then inexplicably tries to go in a suicide booth and gets knocked out of it because the guy's on vacation. He says he'll give him this brain transfer ray swiped from the professor. Then he smacks Fry with it and decides to find the others and club them too. That was ingenious. Then he gasps, despite being a robot, when he sees Mom's son again, wondering where his brother is. Ignor is up behind Bender, and Bender transfers his mind to him. Which makes sense because he's holding a ray shaped like a ray gun, and he got startled when hiding from a threat. So he instinctively used it like a gun from muscle memory. He's amazed at getting to have a heartbeat, and then randomly gets told he needs a conscience by a robot cricket guy, and then kicks him away. Igner gets yelled at by one of the brothers and pushes him away satisfyingly, telling him to mind his own business. He takes the candy back and scares them into letting him be the boss. I love seeing this, even if it's Bender doing this and not Igner. And thank goodness he lets Igner have the candy, even if it's only because he looks like Bender now, and is sadly not commenting on what it's like to be a robot at all. It's also smart of Igner to ask to be friends because it's less dangerous than being his enemy, which is what someone stupider would do to stand up to him for shoving his brothers. Bender agrees and then says he forgot how painful pain is, even though robots would have a sense of pain for their own good. And I'm pretty sure that every time he got hurt, he still acted like he was in pain, because he wouldn't have been as funny otherwise. So one of the brothers says that Igner has declared an end to the robot memory erasing, and the crew have to go back home. And Bender is actually allowed to come back whenever he wants, with everything on the house. Bender's body says that he's actually Igner. Why is he admitting that now when it's going to inconvenience Bender? Well, he wouldn't want to go back to his old body. Igner lies on the spot that his speech impediment makes him pronounce Bender as Igner. Why would anyone buy this? He says a speech therapy ray might fix that. A clever lie that gets Bender back to normal. Igner says he's all soft again. And somehow his brothers don't immediately figure out the truth from that and just praise him. Igner says what when asked for orders, and one of his brothers assumed his brother spoke too softly for Igner to hear him. It's interesting to see Igner be treated like their leader. Igner says he likes pudding and gets some. That also wasn't stupid of him. It tries to portray him as spacey, especially with the way his eyes look. But it's smart of him to take advantage of the situation by getting to eat something he likes. I'd say Fry and Bender are stupider than him most of the time, because Bender is constantly breaking the law, and Fry's in focus. They don't know what to do with this planet now, and Mom finds out that Igner turned the planet to an amusement park. He used the construction robots here to reassemble things. While this wasn't Mom's plan, and maybe the reason she's mad about it is that it'll be less profitable and wasn't her idea, an amusement park is still a moneymaker, and makes people happy, so that's not a stupid idea either. So I'm proud of Mom for saying he's brilliant and giving him a high five, as well as proud of him. It also makes sense that she acted clearly mad at first, because it was still insubordination. She says with this discount park, they could undercut the one on the moon and put them out of business in a year. Wait, why did you think that's about a planet that everyone thinks is only safe for robots to go to? And the amusement park on the moon is clearly a lot closer to Earth, so it'd be cheaper and faster to go to. Maybe there's so many more robots around where she is that she knows it'll be more profitable. She'll get so many more customers that it's going to be worth the fact that they can only be robots. She does say that it's cheap and dangerous. And she's sadistic, so she loves making a profit while getting people hurt. As we see robots get thrown out of the amusement park's roller coaster ride. To be fair, they're robots, so they won't get hurt as badly from this, and logically, they could be repaired from anything. And even have backup units. So it being a robot-only zone means that she can actually get away with not making the roller coasters as safe as they should be. But even then, the rides should be forced to be more safe regardless. The customers would demand her to make them more safe to be more fun. She tells her son's good job when it was only Igner, and even tells him to go get some ice cream. I'm glad she's not always mean to them. But the sad thing is, it's probably her rare moments of being nice to them that give them lame excuses not to leave her. The crew get back to their normal bodies, and Fry doesn't care about folk music anymore. I don't know why robots would have different music tastes just because they're robots, when they otherwise think just like people. Wait a minute, maybe it's because Mom secretly likes folk music. Bender secretly likes folk music, but I never thought it was just because he's a robot. And interestingly, Zoidberg misses being a robot right away and wishes he could make toast. Farnsworth says that rather than them risking being stuck as robots, he would have had to pay another day's rental for them. Wait, he rented those robot bodies instead of making them himself? There's a reason I didn't assume that. It makes more sense than what Fry assumed, and Farnsworth is kinda lazy. I love that Fry smartly says it was great being a robot. Then it turns out the crew all have gills because Farnsworth injected their bodies with fish DNA for their next delivery at the bottom of the sea before 5 p.m. They would have noticed not being able to breathe earlier than this. And why would they not have lungs anymore? Their gills are on their necks, not where their lungs were. Then we see Leela and Fry as mermaids. It's more interesting to see them have to change form to deal with the planets they go to for deliveries. Makes me wonder why that doesn't happen more often. Leela delivers a package that the alien doesn't want because the son ordered it without permission from the back of a comic. Bender asks the sea snake if they're fighting or flirting, when he should know the answer from the context. And Zoidberg returns to his robot body because he's addicted to raisin toast, even though he can't eat it this way. So at least him being sad about this makes sense. This story was about the crew being sent to a planet with their minds in robots because of what unrealistically turned out to be a fake rumor that the planet's atmosphere is only survivable for robots, which would have been quickly disproven with the slightest research. And then people would post on Twitter about it. So the crew never would have been turned into robots at all. It could have easily just been explained that only robots are allowed to go to this planet. And I guess the reason they weren't put in robots when they were sent to a planet ruled by robots that hates humans in the show is that Farnsworth is a ditzy idiot who didn't think of this at the time. Maybe the technology wasn't out yet. But I do like that they got to enjoy themselves. They were smart enough to have fun with it instead of hating that's different from what they're used to. But then they were annoyingly stupid by refusing to leave the planet, even when they knew they were being threatened with memory erasing. Thankfully, his kleptomania pays off again, because the brain transfer ray is used on Igner, so he takes advantage of that to resolve the whole conflict. I was surprised that it was that easy for the crew to escape. Even though Igner said he was in Bender's body, it somehow didn't tip off his brothers right away. Which is good, because it was for the best that they let him cancel their evil plan and make an amusement park there.